It's a thrill to be here. Thank you very much for letting me join you for this very impressive conference and to kick off official proceedings. On behalf of the City of Melbourne, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we gather today, the people of the Kulin Nation, and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I know that Uncle Colin couldn't join us this morning for an official welcome to country, always full of interesting stories and very challenging, Uncle Colin. But I did want to say that at the City of Melbourne we do everything we can to embrace, respect and celebrate the fact that in Australia we have the longest continuous living culture in the world. And despite the fact, or in addition to the fact that that is so cool, there is so much that we can learn from our First Peoples and their enduring spiritual and cultural connection to our land. So acknowledging that Uncle Colin couldn't be here, but making sure that on behalf of the City of Melbourne, we really acknowledge the importance of our traditional owners. To the District Governors, congratulations on organising this fantastic event. And can I tell you that I've already been in tears. Poor Philip Archer, who's there looking after me, couldn't understand why I went all silent. But albeit with another program, I was an exchange student in 1984-85. So to see those kids coming down through the stairs onto the stage and understanding what an amazing experience they're having here with all of you. Congratulations for opening your hearts and homes to those kids and giving them what will be an experience that sets them up for life. And I know they'll be adding a lot of value into your communities too. So Philip, sorry, that's why I couldn't speak. I was all emotional. But what a wonderful way to start the day. Well, I was sworn in as Melbourne's Lord Mayor, 104th Lord Mayor of Melbourne less than a year ago, and I don't think I really could have known when I set out on this journey that it would be such a privilege to represent the people of Melbourne. And your motto, service above self, is something that I feel every day, and it brings me a lot of joy and a lot of honour. In my role, I meet numerous people. That's one of the best things about the job. And mostly they are resourceful people, people that I can learn from, and I'm always intrigued and curious to know more about what our citizens are doing in our community to make it a stronger, more welcoming and cohesive community. One of the things I do is I try to link people with others and try to find partners so that we can develop concrete solutions to many of the issues that we face as a community. And during this time, this journey of meeting people and learning more, I have had the pleasure and honour of meeting many highly motivated and dedicated Rotarians. Many of you may be in the room today. It's lovely to see familiar faces, and it's always a pleasure for me to be at Rotary events. Every time I encounter Rotary, I am struck by the dedication of your communities and the way that you come together to be so effective. You advance common goals, and that is very much demonstrated by this multi-district conference, which brings together people from so many places around Victoria, and as we just heard, from around Australia and other countries. From our point of view, this is an exciting precursor to what will happen in 2023 when the international conference is right here in Melbourne. To say that we are excited at the City of Melbourne is an understatement. So congratulations to all of you who were involved. It's a stunning success, and we know it will have many benefits for everybody involved, but really for the entire community of Greater Melbourne and Victoria. So as I said, we're really excited. What we will need more than ever as Melbourne continues to grow are the values embedded in the Rotary ethos. Rotary's civic spirit, fellowship and compassion for others inspire me as you inspire so many others as well. And despite all of our best efforts, we know that disadvantage, ill health, poverty, injustice, and a lack of secure housing affect far too many people here and around the world. It's important to acknowledge that the most vulnerable in our communities look not just to governments, whether local, state or federal, but to community, the private sector and service organisations such as Rotary to provide leadership and pathways forward. Governments, I know, cannot solve these hardships alone. And in this light, the words guiding your activities carry much power. Rotary says, together we inspire, we connect, we transform. And I'm delighted that it's actually very similar to the theme that we have as our City of Melbourne motto, which is stronger as we go together. Surely these aims will be the bedrock for much of what we do as people committed to social justice and diversity. I was pleased to join a council team last year that already has very inspiring and transformational attitudes towards those people sleeping rough and our challenge with homelessness here in Melbourne. And I was asked to talk a little bit more about that this morning. Well, I'm pleased to be able to share with you what I think can be some practical models for all cities. And I know that through the activities I've had with a number of Rotary clubs that you're also working on very practical and valuable ideas, and I look forward to ways in which we can bring those together. But our approach to homelessness is so important for caring for those who are at their most vulnerable if they are rough sleeping on our streets. I've learned in the past 9 months that the City of Melbourne staff, working together with numerous agencies, do put in an enormous effort to speaking and learning more about those individuals who are sleeping rough on our streets. That's how our team hear the distressing experiences, and that's how we can work together to identify the services and programs that might work to create change. Recently, a workshop was held to discuss, for example, storage options for our people's possessions, and participants in that workshop focused not so much on the issues, but on the individuals and the individual stories. Men, women, a mother with 2 small children all participated in the workshop. What these people worried about was losing their stuff. This meant that they stay close to their belongings. They stay close to bathrooms to minimise movement away from their belongings. When you think about that, life starts to get pretty limited. Getting a meal or leaving your spot to attend a medical appointment could mean that you lose everything that you own. And whilst the word stuff, our stuff, my stuff, was used a lot during the workshop, we know that that stuff is actually the most precious and meaningful possessions that those people have. And it often includes bedding, which is so important for their physical, mental, and emotional health. So when we better understand the physical details of these people's lives, I know that we are more likely to build trust in the relationships that we're building, and that they will hopefully be more open to the services and opportunities that we can provide to help them with the issues that they're facing and to identify housing options for them. And I'm confident that that's happening because we are starting to see results. In my experience, Melbourne is a caring city, and in local government we feel very supported to continue our services because the people of Melbourne absolutely get behind us. As Lord Mayor, I receive hundreds of bits of correspondence and feedback every week. Some of it's nice. But the important part is that the number one issue that people write to me about is homelessness. And they're not writing with anger, even though it's so confronting to see homeless people on our streets. They're writing to us with care and with love and asking how can they help. And this gives us confidence that we have a mandate to do something about it. Homelessness should not ever be politicised, and it certainly should never be criminalised. To remind us of this, we actually don't have to look too far back on the Melbourne experience, where we started down what was, I believe, going to be a totally wrong road, and luckily we were able to pull ourselves out of it. There was at one time a proposal to amend our local laws to define how homelessness was managed in our city. That approach, it still gives me goosebumps, was to effectively criminalise rough sleeping. And I am so proud to say that the people of Melbourne resoundingly rejected that approach. The people of Melbourne said no to criminalising homelessness, and we were able to use that mandate to ensure that we did not go down the wrong approach at the City of Melbourne. The message was, keep being a caring city. And they challenged us as council to find better ways to support the most disadvantaged in our city. So as Lord Mayor, together with our councillors, we've listened and we've learnt a lot from the partners, the agencies, the frontline workers and our staff who have been gathering valuable information about our homelessness population and coming together to provide support. And so we've taken a completely different approach, which is actually what I call the caring approach. It's going to take us longer, it's going to be more expensive, but it's going to have much better long-term personal outcomes. So as a result of the collaborations over the last 12 months in particular, we have now a multi-million-dollar range of programs, and we work very closely with our partners. We feel that the programs are well targeted and well informed. The teams working together know the difficulties experienced by older people, by women, by children, by men, by those who feel isolated or rejected by our communities, by those who have mental, emotional and physical health issues. It's so complex. Every person has their own unique circumstances that brought them to this place of sleeping rough. And we note as well the disturbing trend of older women coming onto the streets of Melbourne. This level of activity that we conduct through the City of Melbourne culminates in what we call hotspots meetings. The City of Melbourne started the weekly hotspots meetings to bring together what had otherwise been unlikely partners, and I just still can't believe that we didn't already talk and work together. But as a result of these hotspot meetings, our council officers now meet with, and our support services, I should say, so both compliance and support services meet with our police, support agencies such as AMBOs, NGOs, lots of other state government departments come together, and in fact we've counted now 14 local agencies coming together every week to discuss our hotspots. Our hotspots are specific locations around the city where we know people are regularly sleeping rough and where we can approach larger numbers of people. Those at the service coordination meetings generally now know every single person that's sleeping rough on the City of Melbourne. They know them personally. They are familiar with that individual story, their struggle to find housing, sometimes their stories around abuse, around addiction, whatever the circumstances are that brought them onto the streets and maybe keeping them on the streets. Finding these people, connecting with them, creating a human connection, brings them into the orbit of what is the City of Melbourne's daily support team, and from there where we work with other outreach services to find pathways to a brighter future. The City of Melbourne funds programs with other agencies such as Frontyard Youth Services, the Home Ground Real Estate Group and the Salvation Army's Nighttime Safe Space. Some programs focus on women, some offer legal advice, people are given meals, health support and other assistance. Ultimately, we want to provide a firmer footing from which people who have been at their most vulnerable are able to launch forward, find permanent housing and return to their families and communities. The projects we fund through what we call the Pathway Innovation Fund really make sense. And that's because we know they were developed by the people who know about homelessness in our city, and we can see the gaps that need to be filled while housing is not available. I've spoken about the ideas around storage. It's taken us ages, but we're almost there, our first locker system going into a safe space in our CBD, where other services will also be available for those that need to find storage solutions. We've even developed a free pet foster program for those who need help in providing their pets with safe spaces. And a number of other practical ways in which we're helping those people on the streets. But just to return for a moment for that issue around compliance. Homeless people have also told us they don't actually necessarily understand our local laws anyway. So for us to walk around trying to, as we were, enforce compliance really was completely ridiculous. We make it clear to the people on our streets that it's actually not against the law to sleep rough, but it is against the law to start camps, and that's why we're particularly focused on hotspots. When possessions and sometimes rubbish accumulate in the street, it does attract the attention of our compliance officers, because we need to ensure that at the same time as we're a caring city, we're also protecting public amenity. It is also our responsibility to provide a safe space for everybody that works, lives and visits the city. So we're trying to find a combination of compliance and caring that respects everyone's role, opportunity and challenges in our city. So these unlikely partnerships and the determination of everyone in our groups to reach the individuals sleeping on our streets really is starting to make an impact. We are heartened that every second year we do what is called a street count. And last year was one of those years. We went out in the middle of the night, in the middle of winter. We went out with 400 trained volunteers across 5 municipalities this year. And we talked to the people sleeping rough to understand more about what's happening in their lives, but also to literally do a street count to understand how many people are on our streets. One gentleman I met, Arthur, sadly described himself as a non-person. I said, Arthur, what do you mean by non-person? He said he'd been out of the system for so long and his own challenges meant that he had no way of filling in forms, turning up to Centrelink, complying with all sorts of what I think are harsh regulations to be able to access support in this country, a result of which he has completely fallen out of our systems and he has no record of himself as a person here in Australia. And the problem for Arthur is he doesn't have the skills or the ability to walk into Centrelink and fill out a form. It just can't happen. The results from our 2018 street count are incredibly valuable. They revealed in one sense that we had a 15% decrease in the number of people sleeping rough in our CBD, which is something to be celebrated and means that we are starting to see an impact from our programs. But as I said, it also revealed people like Arthur, And that's just unacceptable. To feel that we not just have people on our streets who are vulnerable, but they've fallen out of a system, so it makes it so difficult for them to access any help at all. So it's our sincere hope in Melbourne that the unprecedented level of coordination, and we're certainly looking to embrace coordination with your efforts here at Rotary, will have and will continue to have an impact. But we can't, of course, accept this situation of non-persons, so we must keep working hard and we must work at a pace if we are to make a difference and if we are to resolve this issue. As we build on what's gone before, and as Lord Mayor, I want to ensure that new ideas gather momentum and that we work together to create action. I want to join more discussions with the private sector, with the business and the community, and the people who tell me frequently that they are looking for ways to contribute and to support. In some ways, this is a really big issue. We start with the individual, but we're looking at a whole spectrum of issues, as I said, right up to federal government where we need to see change. Some of the efforts around housing, for example, are not the responsibility of local government. Unfortunately, I don't have those powers. But it doesn't mean that we don't care, even if they are the responsibility of others. What we can do, and we're doing with renewed purpose, is really putting people on the right path to being housed. I'm keen to hear the views that come out of this conference, and I'm so sorry that I can't stay with you for the entire weekend. There are a few other things happening around town, but I'm really looking forward to getting the results of your discussions and remaining involved. I want to encourage more discussion around housing options going forward, including affordable housing, because that pressure keeps pushing people onto our streets. And we know that at the moment there are 80,000 people on our public housing waiting lists. 80,000 people here in Victoria alone. Again, we just can't continue. The Salvos, other partners, government, the private sector, we're all involved in better, faster moves to house rough sleepers, but we need to be focused also on that full spectrum. In a city with all the advantages and prosperity enjoyed by many, surely we can achieve this, and that is the challenge for all of us. I note that homelessness is always a key part of the efforts of Rotary. Thank you so much. I feel very encouraged that young people are taking part in your activities. Young and old, Rotarians for life, or just starting out, wherever you are on your Rotary journey, all of us can feel the wind in our sails of inspiring, connecting and transforming through Rotary. It's my conviction that our city is a place for everyone. I see these values demonstrated day after day in Rotary's work and in many other examples around our city. As Lord Mayor, I know that we will find areas on which to work together, and I'm determined that with all of our partners to strengthen our efforts, we can make a difference for our most vulnerable. Thank you again for including me in your conference today. I was just going to finish with what is the saying that I say to myself every day, and I think really reflects the efforts that each of you undertake. It's from a gentleman named Edward Hale from a couple of centuries ago, and it goes like this: I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something. And I will not let what I cannot do interfere with what I can do. Best wishes to all of you for understanding what you can do to make a difference in our community. Thank you.
Just a little something. Lord Mayor, thank you so much for giving your